are striking the right notes with the NFL, and all of a sudden you got to switch gears to this is your job now. Is that an easy transition to make or a difficult transition to make?
I think from after the combine and up until this point, you're doing everything you can to prepare for it, and as a rookie you'll have to adjust. But I think I've done everything I could, everything I can to allow myself to hit the ground running when I got here. So.
I think you said after you were drafted, what you feel like separates you is how hard you worked to get here, and that you had been through some adversity, some ups and downs. What looking back, what was kind of the hardest thing you had to overcome in the last few years to get to the point where you're practicing in the NFL?
I mean, really changing positions after 3 years in college. Going from after playing receiver for 3 seasons and then trying to pick up on corner, which I'd never really played before. I think that's just about one of the hardest things you can do, and I think what separated me and allowed me to get to this point was how hard I worked at it. Obviously my athleticism would help me a lot, but I didn't want to be the guy that had to rely on his athleticism. I wanted to be technical, and I wanted to know everything that I had to know. So.
When you're at cornerback, can you think like a wide receiver, and does that help you with that?
Absolutely. Taking that knowledge I learned from playing offense to the defensive side helps me pre-snap, pick up on things that the offense might be doing. So I definitely use that to my advantage as well.
What has been the biggest learning curve in that transition for you, though?
I think just getting comfortable with the technique. Like I said, I never really played the position, so I was kind of learning it as I was going. But really emphasizing the techniques at cornerback. But I take a lot of strides, and I think I'm in a really good spot now with continuing to learn more too.
Who initiated that? Was it you to them, or the coaches to you, and how did that go?
It was Coach Campbell, our head coach, brought it up to me after we had some cornerbacks transfer away. So he knew with my athleticism, I was going to work hard and wanted to see where it could go, and I was all for it. I wanted to see what I could do with it too.
What's been your first impressions of the rest of the rookie class, and kind of what are some things that you have been able to build a little bit camaraderie you do have so far?
Everyone's excited. There's a lot of juice going around. Everyone, we made it to NFL, but now the thing is to stay here and make your mark here. So everyone's flying around. Everyone's got really good energy, and we've only been here for 2 days, but you're already starting to form those relationships that you can lean on those guys. So I think it's really special, and I think over this next weekend, we're going to keep growing.
Darien, did you see Pete? He was practicing his back pedal coverage in warm-ups. Did you see that? What do you think of him bringing that kind of enthusiasm to rookie minicamp?
I think it's awesome to have your head coach out there giving you that one-on-one or with the other cornerbacks, giving you that kind of those tips with his gloves on. He's out there working on his press. So it's funny, but I really appreciate it, and to see that kind of energy in rookie minicamp this early, in the process is awesome.
Was he talking to you when he was showing that? Or?
He was me in the other corners. Yeah, it wasn't just me, but yeah.
Did you know his reputation for kind of developing defensive backs before you got drafted here, going into the draft process? This has kind of been a crash course on his history here lately.
Yeah, everyone knows what he did in Seattle with Richard Sherman, that Legion of Boom. But I was a big fan of Pete Carroll. I grew up a USC fan, so I was watching him in the early to mid 2000s with USC. So for me, it's kind of surreal, to have this kind of come full circle for me. Now he's my head coach in the NFL. I grew up watching USC, so it's just crazy.
Are there any of the defensive backs that he worked with in Legion of Boom that maybe you're trying to model yourself after?
It kind of caught him at the end of his tenure in Seattle with Tariq Woolen. Richard Sherman's very similar. Both tall, long guys, but I think athletically I fit a little bit more Tariq than Richard Sherman. But just looking to take all the coaching I can to be to get to the level of those guys.
It was talk on social media about wanting to buy tickets to see you defend Dante Thornton, another pretty tall, fast guy. When you look at somebody that big and that fast, kind of like yourself, what do you